One of the most incredible experiences that I ever had on mushrooms was when I got transported into this huge club, like a nightclub, but it was massive, maybe the size of a soccer stadium. And there were thousands of people, these black silhouettes dancing in time to this very catchy EDM house music. And above them was this hazy green light that basically surrounded and permeated the entire club. And at the far end of this huge nightclub was a massive tower, also green, about 10 stories high, and each story had its own balcony, and there were people partying on that balcony. And I was there with a friend or some kind of spirit guide. I didn't see its form. But as I walked through the club, he said to me, "Okay, we're going to try and get you in." I was like, "Okay, I don't know what that means, but let's go for it." So we made our way through this club and we went through all the different levels of the tower, all the way up to the very top. And at the top of this tower was this room. And in this room was this big wooden door. Okay, and around it, the frame was glowing gold. And on either side of this door stood two sentries, two guards. And they were gilded in this golden armor with golden helmets, and they were holding these big broadhead spears. And I looked through the door, and I could see this vast black void. And just on the other side were these strange accumulations of energy. And there were about four of these like energy balls. But they weren't really balls, they were kind of like strings of energy surrounding and orbiting some kind of center. And each one was a different color. And the spirit guard pushed me towards the door. The guards looked at me, and then they looked at each other, and they nodded with approval. And they let me through. And as I walked through this door, my entire consciousness just changed. It was like I was stepping into this huge, infinite, vast void. And I could feel that my mind had taken on the quality of emptiness, of sunyata. It was in this huge empty space. And I looked at these energy beings and I asked them, "Is this the astral realm?" And they laughed and they said, "Yes, this is the astral realm." And I said, "Is this what it means to astral travel?" And they said, "Kind of, but we're a bit beyond that." And then me, with these other beings, took off into the cosmos. And we just flew around the universe. Not just the physical universe, but we were passing through these veils of light. We were exploring worlds that were made of pure geometry. And it was this really incredible experience of like traveling through the cosmos with these formless beings. And what I then felt was almost like the scan that started to happen. And it was almost like whatever that space was kind of scanning my consciousness. And as soon as it got to my shadow, as soon as it got to all of the parts of me that were like unresolved, like my psychological hang-ups, my past traumas, just all the shadow stuff. As soon as it got to that point, it was like the scan stopped, boof. And as it hit that shadow, that stopping feeling actually kind of like hurt. It was a weird feeling. It almost like hurt me psychologically. Could almost feel like a sharp pain in my mind. And immediately I got kicked out of this realm by this huge, giant, what looked like a chicken's foot. Okay. And when I remember back, it was more of like, if I can explain the feet of that dragon in Spirited Away, it kind of looked like that. And it just scooped me, poof, out through the doorway from whence I came. And I came falling all the way down from the top of this tower and crashed into the ground. And as I crashed into the ground, my eyes opened and I woke up from this vision. And the first thing I felt was, fuck, why did they kick me out? Am I not good enough? Am I, am I not pure enough? And while I was awake, sitting on the couch, I heard the voice of the spirit guide that I'd been with at that club come to me, and he laughed and he said, no, no, no. It's got nothing to do with you being not good enough. He said, within that space, anything that you think will instantly manifest into reality. So they have to be careful who they let in. Because if they let in somebody who has no control over their own mind, they will start to manifest chaos and shadows. They didn't kick you out because you had these hang-ups. Said they kicked you out because you are still very much attached to these hang-ups. And it is those attachments that stop you from going through that door and traveling with these formless beings. And that explanation really put my mind at ease, because the whole experience was the experience itself was incredible. Actually being able to pass through that veil and enter into, that absolute reality of formlessness, communing with these formless energy beings and getting to spend time with them. It was unbelievable. And being kicked out bruised my ego a little bit, but that explanation really helped. And it really was one of those visions that felt more real than the world that I live in now. It was clear, it was pure. There was no mistaking it for a real reality that exists, not just some fungal hallucination, but an actual place that exists. And that whole experience really changed my perception. It was such an incredible experience. And to be in that place, to be in the presence of such beings, of such high celestial beings, it sucked that I got kicked out, and I haven't been able to get back since, but I'm really, really grateful that I just got the opportunity to experience that at all. And honestly, I feel like I don't really have to go back. I feel like that little glimpse was enough. I got to experience it, and now I'm satisfied.